You know, I've been thinking about quite a few things recently. I don't know, perhaps it's to do with my age. Perhaps when you are getting on for 61 years. 61 years in March. Wow. Perhaps you do think about more stuff. Perhaps you got more time to think about stuff. Some might argue perhaps you got too much time on your hands. I don't know. But I've been thinking about something. And it kind of revolves around this idea of history. Yeah. Now, I often say, and I still believe it's true, that the Tory government and whatever are teaching history or forcing teachers to teach history as a series of names, dates, events, places, battles, all that lot, with no kind of understanding of how this impacted on the lives of, you know, Joe Soap, Josephine Soap, ordinary individuals like you and me. Those of us who the Tories, you can see it again, those of us who the Tories like to scapegoat. They love scapegoating us, don't they? They absolutely love it. Daniel Blake, good example of it. Okay, the film was fiction, but it told the truth of somebody who had to be scapegoated. The poor guy had to be scapegoated because, well, there were billionaires to pay off, weren't there? There were billionaires to pay off. There was national debt to repay. The bankers had stuffed it up. And in all honesty, our scapegoats should be paying for that. Why should the people who did that pay for that? What I'm really wanting to say is that I want to set history in some kind of context. Think about the history of those of us born in the 50s up until now. 58 for me, right? Nearly 61 years. 61 years. How will our history be written? Well, I'll tell you one thing for absolutely certain. No matter what we do, it won't really be written as anything important. To kind of make it into the history books, you have to be, well, you have to be powerful, don't you? You have to be powerful. You have to have done something historic. You have to have made some really important change or built some massive business. I mean, look at old Richard Branson, yeah? Old Dickie there. When I was a kid, he founded Virgin Music, called Virgin Records, and it was the old theme song from The Exorcist. He did that, didn't he? Good old Branson, yeah. Now he buys the health service. Now he buys whether or not they treat me for heart disease. So Branson, yeah, he's going to be a massive historic figure. Thatcher, yeah, again, what did she do? Well, she starved the miners back to work. What else did she do? She sold off our oil and our national reserves. What else did she do? She bankrupted communities, towns. She set one group of people against each other. She was the leader of the loads of money generation. So she made the history books. My God, she might even make the currency. Can you imagine that? But you and me, not all of us are scapegoats, of course not, but you and me, how are they going to write about us? What are they going to say? Who's going to sanitize this history? What are they going to say? 120,000 people die having been declared fit for work by the Department of Work and Pensions. how's that going to appear in the history books? What's that going to look like? Who's going to write that history? Who's going to airbrush that out? Yeah? Because the people that write the history are the rich, the powerful, the important. Yeah? Does anyone really and truly care about the history of ordinary people? Well, okay, look at Robert Tressel's Ragged Trouser Philanthropists. Of course, he wanted to write what it was really about for an ordinary working person, a painter and decorator in those days. That's why the book is so good, yeah? But is that the history you really read about? You might have read the book, I hope you have. But would you perhaps not be more likely to learn about the history of the British Crown? Seeds of empire, places of empire, sergeant majors taking a stand against the fuzzy wuzzies. Yeah, you know, there's another thing. I was watching a guy on a channel that deals with military affairs. Yeah, and I like the guy because I'm interested in certain bits of militaria and weapons and stuff like that. But this, when he's talking about history, quote, imperial history, quote, the British imperial history in being in places like India, Zambia, South Africa, places like that. When he's talking about the military being there, he describes an officer's revolver as being, pulls it out, shows it to the camera, an officer's revolver was often described as a Zulu stopper. Oh, hello, I've got a Zulu stopper, and that's a fuzzy wuzzy. Bang! Why? Yeah? Even he's dragged in to this bloody patriotic Britain shall be great again. Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Britons never, never, never shall be slaves. So, well, perhaps that's a historical truth. Perhaps that's what the chaps in the officers' mess did in fact call that revolver. Oh, and by the way, one interesting bit of stuff. You might wonder in Blackadder where Baldrick gets his name. And this is good. I like this. And I'm going to tell it to you because it's good. Apparently there's a device called a Sam Brown. A Sam Brown was a sort of belt around the waist, yeah, and a strap that ran diagonally across there. Now here's a bit of history. Yeah? Get this, history. Who's behind the name of the belt? Well, apparently there was some good old British chappie there. He was a bit of an officer and a gentleman, and he was hacking away left and right, defending the Union in some country where there were lots of people with spears, a lot of spear chuckers, and one of the spear chuckers happened to cut off his arm. So he still carried on, other arm, you know, sword slashes and all that lot. He still carried on fighting to the end, having disposed of those few fuzzy wuzzies. And of course, naturally, he got the VC because he rose up and got all of the regiment, even though he was spurting blood out of his arm, and got all of the regiment to just annihilate them, and they all ran away. So hence, a bit of history, a bit of military history. The Sam Brown, like my dad used to wear, was named after him. Because apparently, obviously not having this arm anymore, well, it was a bit difficult to draw his sword. And I think it was this arm, yeah? He didn't have one of the arms anyway, he didn't have it anymore, so he couldn't just sort of pull his sword out like that, because, well, he hadn't got an arm, yeah? So he put this other strap across here, and that strap going across there helped him draw his sword with this arm, and that strap, coming to the point of the story, and that strap was called a baldrick. There you go. Tony Robinson and whatever, even when they do get a bit Tory supporting, kind of pisses me off a bit, but that's where it comes from. A baldrick. A baldrick has gone down into history. Well, another baldrick's gone down into history as well, hasn't he? Yeah. Even I've been called Baldrick before. quite like being called Baldrick, actually. I think I make quite a good Baldrick, actually. But you see, I don't know, I'm rambling, and I won't keep rambling for too long, okay? I'm rambling because I'm just getting excited by history. But go back to what I'm saying. Even when you were at school, even if you're my generation, talking about my generation, even if you're my generation, talking about my generation, or even if you're before my generation, look at the history you learned. How much of it told of the lives of ordinary people? Working, not working, just ordinary people, ordinary everyday people. Yeah, it might be great to know that James Watt invented the steam engine. I did a whole series of essays on the Stroud Water Canal when I was at Leicester Polytechnic studying, the Industrial Revolution. In fact, the bloke that taught it to us was so into the Stroud Water Canal, we once came into one of his lectures and bought him a little bottle of Stroud water and said, "That's from the Stroud Water Canal." Yeah. But even the stuff we were taught then, how relevant was that to us? Obviously, the guy who built the canal made a bloody fortune. The people who ran the docks, satanic mills, made a fortune. And they employed a little group of people under them, who subsequently became the middle class, and they were the overseers, they were the whippers-in gang. Work harder, peasants, work harder, slash, rash, bang, bosh, wash harder, work harder or you're fired. I need more production out of you, or you will not have a job. How much of the history, even of that time, that maybe you have been taught involves that? Seems to me that history is written and structured by powerful people. Why the images of empire? Why do they still stand out? Why the imperial days? Why does every good British gammon want to go back to the days when Britain was great? Why are we always trying to make Britain great again, chaps and chapesses? Why do we always want to go back to, they don't like it up 'em, sir, they don't like it up 'em? Because that history is that which has been taught. Nobody teaches you about the oppression of the colonial people. Nobody teaches you about all the stuff that we stole from the continents and the bits of the empire that we bloody occupied. No, they always go, well, Clive discovered India in such, and then there was the East India Company, and they ran lots of ships. You never find that out. Do some more research if you could. Find out how history affects real people. And maybe, even in doing that, you might form the perspective of a socialist who, unfortunately, still gets scapegoated by our government. Bless them.